Welcome to Awakening Streams, the podcast of One River Zen Meditation Center in Ottawa, Illinois. Hosted by Sensei Michael Brunner. Learn more, donate, and practice with us at oneriverzen.org.
I still remember the early stages of practice for me. I was in my early 30s. And boy, we all start with some idea of practice, some gaining idea of where it's going to take us. Maybe we seek release. Maybe we want some sort of freedom from our stress, somewhere hallowed, right, or separate that we can go, where, in a way, I think maybe life won't touch us. Yeah? I used to drive for hours to get to the Zen Center. This is the days before Zoom. Yeah, so I had to drive an hour and 15 minutes to get there. And, I maybe get 10 or 15 minutes, to see a teacher, present a koan. Yeah. And I had some challenges in my life at the time. I had some seemingly intractable karma. My intractable karma at the time had a name, so I won't use that name. But it was pulling me into a constant loop of despair. Yeah. I eventually, at some point, wound up saying, you know what, I'm just going to let it all go. And I moved across the street from the Zen Center. It made it easier for me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, make instant coffee, and cruise over and sit every day. Yeah. It wasn't bad. These aren't bad ideas. These weren't bad things. It was a required part of my practice. I had to go through this phase. I had to stir the mud at the bottom of the pool. Yeah. I had to see how the water became cloudy, to fix my gaze so I wasn't looking past the cloudiness. And initially, that's where I thought it was all found. But then begin to appreciate the mud for what it is. Learning to appreciate it truly and work with it. After a little while of practice, we begin to see that practice is practice. Yeah? It's not that there is no magic. It's just that we don't look elsewhere to see it. Then we see the magic. We have the arrow of our lived experience, or the relative, meeting the arrow of the absolute. One pinpoint. You can't dwell in either place. You have to get to that precise point. If you're misaligned by a little bit, the suffering will overwhelm you. And you'll go on, hoping to meet your life someday or one day, but you never actually meet it. There's a case in the Shōyōroku, it's also known as the Book of Equanimity. It's the 68th case. It's called Kasan's Slashing Sword. Everyone starts the same, right? Attention! A monk asked Kasan, how about when sweeping out the dust, you see the Buddha? Kasan said, straight away, slash with a sword. If you don't, the fisherman will live in a nest. The monk then went to ask Sekisō, how about when sweeping out the dust, you see the Buddha? Sekisō said, he has no country. Where could he be met? The monk returned to Kasan and related this to him. Kasan ascended the high seat. And he said, in setting up expedients, I'm better than he. But as a profound talk of the principle, he's 100 paces ahead of me. So those of you just starting with the Mumonkan, you can see some of the fun that ensues. We begin, over time, becoming more and more subtle in adjusting our gaze, beginning to appreciate where we get stuck. Kasan and Sekisō were asked this ostensibly, or apparently, the same exact question. How about when sweeping out the dust, you see the Buddha? When I witness my delusion in my own being, and wisdom manifests as a result, then what? So the first master, Kasan, is asked, and he says, essentially, cut that out. Cut that out. Otherwise, a fisherman will live in a nest. You're getting things all confused. Yeah? What's the Buddha doing in your thoughts? How can a Buddha reside there anyway? Yeah? Is that where he belongs? Is the Buddha sitting there like some idol? Is this some rarefied state? Or have you just conjured up a new label? What good is it if you have images of Buddha in your mind? Yeah? Maybe there's some passing good in the sense you aren't so attached to the other elements of your karmic consciousness. But you can't get stuck here. This is no place to go. For the Buddha to be the Buddha has to move. The Buddha has to dance. The Buddha has to heal. The Buddha has to be transcended as an idea. And when that happens, you're moved by it. You have to be moved by it. On the other hand, Sekisō says, he has no country. Where can he be met? In Sandokai, we all know the famous line, to encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. Yeah? Where indeed can he be met? If you say, all the dust has been swept, who swept it? Where's the broom? These are all just ideas. What's left when you've gone past all of your ideas? Emptiness. This is pointing out absolute emptiness, mu, the empty mirror. Yeah? Can't dwell there either. Can't dwell there. You'll say, well, this is the absolute Dharmakaya. No, it's an essence or an idea about the Dharmakaya. Well, you're saying that emptiness is not real? No, it's not. No. If you can explain it to me, if you can describe it, you're not there. You've missed it. Yeah? And even if you do encounter it for a fleeting moment, if you think that it has to do with erasing all of your thoughts, you've missed it too. It's not it. Yeah? That's what it is to move past it. You can't grasp it. The I and the you, the self and the other, they always exist as concepts. And because they do, they're always manifesting in the world. You can't be asleep to the wheel. Most of you aren't anyway. Yeah? We're all suffering. When I say most, all. We're all suffering. Some of the suffering we create. Some of it is created because of our ignorance. Yeah? That ultimately, it's there. You can't be asleep at the wheel. If your boss tells you you are late, then you reply, there's no one to be late, because there's no place to arrive. I predict things don't go well for you from that point forward, yeah? I predict that's not going to be a very good conversation. You master these things when you realize that their essential nature is empty. You begin to pick up the canvas, pick up the palette, and paint. You recognize that you are the painter. Yeah? You can either paint or be painted. You can either master or be mastered. Kasan and Sekisō each expressed one side of the coin. But you can't go into the store and spend one side. It won't work. Yeah? How you bring it together holistically, you have to do this. In reality, we'd say they're not separate. But we see them as very separate. And the fact that there's a separation is what makes us suffer so badly. The relative and the absolute. Kasan's talking about entering by practice. Sekisō is talking about entering by realization. But here's the thing. Both must manifest, or neither one does. Yeah? This isn't a minor point. We don't need to even call it anything at all. As a matter of fact, the moment you've done that, you've probably lost it. Wherever you are, that's the Dharma gate. Wherever you are, pay attention. In that gap between the observer and the observed, this moment and the next, good and bad, that's where wisdom is found. The moment you know it, you've lost it. You can see the vastness of your true nature. That's important. Each of you has to bear witness to that. But at the same time, you have to move the hands and the feet that you call mine. Yeah? This is the way, this is where it meets. It meets at the point of these two arrows. Despair, how does it move you? Will you turn in and chase your tail? Or will you actualize your realization and be the bridge over troubled waters? Ultimately, you're all going to have to answer a question. Yeah? What is this life? What am I going to do with it? Who am I? There's a million other different ways we can point to it. We can call it purpose. We can call it calling. We can call it connection. Whatever you call it, don't squander it. You do have an alternative. We can continue wallowing around in the mud and not recognize it as mud. But then your life is passing you by. Each of us is going to have to make a decision about this. In a way, we already are aware of the decision that has to be made. The door's been open for a long time. Everyone has a good reason why they can't step through it, I promise. Some people have better reasons than others. Everyone knows what's on the other side, and everyone knows why they can't get there. This is going to take you moving beyond knowing. Moving to a place where your wildest dreams are manifest. Because you move from a place of knowing to a place of wonder.
Thank you for joining us. If this podcast was meaningful for you and supported your practice, please give us a hand by visiting us at oneriverzen.org today.